Thank you. Welcome everybody, and we're glad that you could join us today to listen to Beth. We are honored to spend time with you. And please note, we are recording the speaker portion of the event for our YouTube channel, and the Q&A will not be recorded though. And a little bit of background about AKA. AKA Adoption Knowledge Affiliates is a grassroots or volunteer organization founded over 30 years ago to promote education, connection, and support across the adoption constellation. We welcome all members of the adoption constellation, including adopted people, birth or first parents, adoptive parents, extended family members, and professionals. We also welcome our adjacent communities of donor-conceived persons and DNA discoveries. These parties are often separated, but AKA believes a lot of benefit can come from learning and sharing together. And a note about membership, as a nonprofit powered by volunteers, we do rely primarily on membership dues for the operation of our organization. And if you're not currently a member, please consider joining. And a note about self-care, today's featured speaker may include sensitive subject matter, and today's discussion may be triggering. We remind everyone to take good care of themselves. If you need help, the National Hotline for Mental Health Crises and Suicide Prevention is 800-950-6264. Or you can call or text the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988. And to minimize distraction, please mute yourself during the meeting. If you have questions, please raise your hand or just type it in the chat. We will be monitoring chat, and there will be time afterwards for Q&A. If opinions are expressed during the meeting that make you uncomfortable, we ask that you please listen, reflect, and respond respectfully. We strive to provide a space where our members feel safe to share individual experiences, support, and gain knowledge from each other. And so our speaker tonight is Beth Syverson, and Beth is an adoptive mom of a 20-year-old son, Joey, who she adopted from Japan as an infant. She didn't understand adoption trauma until after her son was in crisis at age 15. Then they both did a deep dive into adoption therapy, reading about adoption and engaging with the adoption community. In August of 2021, Joey had the idea to create Safe Home Podcast to share what they'd learned as a family, with the hopes that it would help other families with teens struggling with addiction and mental health issues, including adoption trauma. Now renamed Unraveling Adoption, the podcast aims to provide an intentional space to delve into adoption's complexities. In August 2023, Beth became a certified coach through the Virginia Satir Global Network's coaching and mentorship program. She coaches people in the adoption constellation and beyond, plus produces workshops and special events for the adoption community. She prioritizes elevating adopted people's voices, especially those with traditionally marginalized identities, and she's dedicated to advocating for adoptees. So welcome, Beth. We are grateful to have you with us today. And with that, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Bruce, and it's great to see you all. I know many of you and some are new to me, so I'm just honored and grateful to AKA for letting me share a bit of our story with you today. So the official talk is The Complexities of Motherhood in the Adoption Constellation, and my preferred title is Happy Effing Mother's Day. I think that's more fitting. The people that have commented on it said that is a good way to call it, because I don't know about you, Mother's Day is very triggering for me. I'm sure it's triggering for any adoptee. I'm sure it's triggering for any birth parent. I'm sure it's triggering for regular old people on the street. Mother's Day is kind of a fraught holiday. I thought we'd start out, and I'll be asking for you to contribute in chat throughout my talk today. And our first thing to chat is an emoji. and there's a little happy face emoji at the very bottom of your chat box, and you can click that and you can have a wide selection of emojis. So click the emoji that matches how you feel about Mother's Day. Sad face, okay. Really sad face. Mm-hmm. Yes. Anyone else? Lots of sad, not lots of sadness. Yes, yes. And I hope that in this next hour and 20 minutes, oh, there's a happy one. Fine, happy is okay too. uh, that we can all kind of become more aware and embrace all of these feelings. Oh, Lisa F., that's a sad one. Sad, mad. Yes, yes. There's so many complex feelings about Mother's Day and motherhood in general, and I hope that this talk today will help to unravel some of that, maybe make it less potent and more, and that we can share it within community and know that we have people that we can talk about all of these complicated messes with. So I'm going to keep going and talk about the things that we see out in the world about Mother's Day. I mean, you can't even get away from the ads right now. The next couple of days are going to be pretty brutal. This is an example of the kind of things you see when you're looking for cards. Magnificent, outstanding, tender, honorable, extraordinary, remarkable. Heck, that is a lot for anyone to live up to or to expect. And, no one can be all of those things. And I had a really wonderful mother. I'm not adopted myself. And I had a really wonderful mother that's been with me my whole life. She's not all of those things. I mean, who can do all of those things? That's a little bit a lot to ask. Here's another one. There's only one all-knowing, all-loving creator of my universe. You, Mom. Ah, no pressure there, right? Like, goodness sakes, we put so much on our moms. Moms are resilient. Moms are always there for us. Moms are this, moms are that. Here's the last one. 10 out of 10 mom would recommend to other children. So we're going to put all those sillinesses away and unrealistic expectations and be a little bit more real today. And we're going to be talking about what about adoption is tough, what makes motherhood tougher when you're dealing with adoption. There's several different angles with adoption that makes motherhood even more complicated. And I'm going to be sprinkling my talk today with some goofiness because the topic is really, really tough. So I hope it's okay that every once in a while I'm going to give you a funny little video or meme. This one, here we go. I'm sorry, it'll take just a second. Motherhood is a journey. Enjoy the trip. Oops, I should. Oops. Oh no, oh no. Oh, I totally messed that up. Let me try it again. I'm so sorry. I hit a button and it went to a whole different thing. Okay. And then at the end, I don't know if you could see it, right? She disappeared at the end. So that's the trip. The motherhood is a trip, and it is a trip, that is for sure. We can say that. I'm going to talk about my motherhood journey, and then I have kind of an interactive exercise for us to do for the other part of the talk today. But I'm just going to go through my motherhood journey. Every one of us has a motherhood journey, whether you're a mother or not. Everyone has a mother and a grandmother and a great grandmother and ad infinitum. This is how my motherhood journey started. This was when I was 34 years old. My dream was to be pregnant by my 35th birthday, to have my pregnancy be the most joyous time of my life. I want to glow. Some of those pregnant women have that glow, I understand anyway. And I wanted to have a healthy baby, and I wanted for my husband at the time and I to bring our baby immeasurable love and joy. And I wanted to be the glue of our family, creating a peaceful and joyous environment for the 3 or 4 of us. And I wanted to raise a child who is secure, nice, generous, and healthy. Well, a few of those things came through, but most of them did not. And if I don't know if any of you struggled with that biological clock ticking, if any of you struggled with infertility and that biological drive to recreate life, but it is an intense drive. I never was a huge baby person. I didn't grow up thinking, I'm going to have 10 children or whatever. I was never really a kid person, but man, my mid 30s hit and I was like, must reproduce. It is a really, really, it's a thing. So for sure. And it didn't go as planned. This is one of many pictures of follicles that were produced during infertility treatment to try to get more follicles to create more chances of pregnancy, and none of them worked. It was a very difficult process. And then we adopted. We decided to adopt when the infertility was making me so crazy. I was suicidal, and we're like, okay, well, we can't do this anymore. So let's adopt. My husband at the time is Japanese American, and we had family members that had adopted from Japan. You probably don't know many people that were adopted from there. There's, as far as I understood, there was about 20 a year adopted from Japan. They have a very high abortion rate there, and many people just take care of each other's family members. But so 20 a year through this agency that I went through, which was through a OBGYN. So this was the moment after I got, to hold my son. And you can see how happy I was. And my son looks completely freaked out and scared. And, it was one of the best days of my life and one of the worst days of his life. So that's how it started with my child. His name is Joey. He's 20 now. He's about 3 in this picture. And this is, you know, only a tiny bit of the roller coaster ride that we've been on together in our life. By the way, I just spoke to him earlier today and double checked that he's still okay with us sharing his story to the world. And he really is passionate about using our story, our adoption story, and our mental health story and our addiction story to help other families. So just want you to know he is on board. He was even going to try to be here today, but he actually has the flu and is feeling really lousy. But he, as you can tell in this picture, he was a vibrant child. He was kind of hyper and playful and extremely athletic. In preschool, he was dribbling a basketball the right way, and people were flipping out, like, what? He's very athletic. He's very much in his body. He was always super, super smiley when he was a kid. People adored him and would often ignore me and go right to Joey because he was just so like a bright, bright light. His Japanese name was Genki, and now it's his middle name, but Genki means like full of life, very energetic and full of life, and he certainly is. I ended up divorcing his dad when Joey was 4, which added extra trauma to Joey. And his dad is a difficult person, but I found my wife. I figured out I was gay, and then I found my wife, and we created a wonderful, wonderful life. We have horses. That was our favorite dog, Bentley, and we just did all sorts of fun things together. Joey was an amazing horseman. He probably still is, hasn't been on a horse for a while. And we love the animals. We love doing fun things together. We went to the Grand Canyon. My wife and I got married, and Joey was my best man. And that picture on the right was on the front page of our paper because we got married on the day the Supreme Court let gay people get married in California. And then 2 years to the day later, the whole country was able to get married. But it was a very special day. It was kind of a remarkable experience, and Joey was fully on board. Well, on the left side, we were waiting to go, and he was like, how much longer, Mom? This is ridiculous. So, but it was a very exciting day to be part of. Here we are in Colorado over a giant canyon doing this ropes course. This is at Joey's 8th grade graduation, and I think he looks so handsome here. And you would not probably guess this, but he was using substances at this time. This was 7th, 8th grade, around 12, 13. He started using cannabis, nicotine, and then psychedelics. I always like to let people know that you can vape cannabis and you can vape psychedelics, and the kids are vaping all sorts of crazy stuff nowadays. So, and he was right on that front edge of the vaping craze and all the candy flavored vaping and all this stuff they marketed towards kids. So, but I didn't know it at this time. And he looks pretty pulled together. I mean, he was able to do it for a long time without me knowing and without his whole life totally falling apart. But it eventually did. This picture was taken about a week before the major crisis that changed all of our lives. He looks pretty good here too. I thought he looked kind of like a model. He was doing the hair thing. But when I look at it closely, his eyes are gone. He's just like, I'm here. I've got a mask on. I'm doing this thing for you guys, but I'm not really fully engaged here. And a week after this picture was taken, he tried to take his own life for the first time at 15. And we ended up having him into a psychiatric hospital, which I thought would just totally fix him up and we'd be good to go. But it has been a very difficult path of suicidality continuing many, many times, and addiction that he's still struggling with. But and here, this is a picture after his first psychiatric hospital stay. He ended up going to get his hair buzzed. I thought it was because in psych hospitals, they don't use hair products. They don't let you have really anything. So I thought he was just sick of his hair in his face. But then we realized to test somebody's hair for drugs, it has to be an inch long. So I think that's pretty funny. He's like, Mom, I just want to get my hair. I want a new start. I want a new start. So, but anyway, but he is, I'll catch you up to date. I'll just go through the chronology here. Sorry. This is on our way to a lockdown psychiatric hospital out of state in California, where we're from. California will not lock anyone up unless you're in jail or on a 72-hour hold. But in Nevada, they happily will lock people up for you. And so he was in a psych ward, children's, youth psych ward, because he could not stop running away. We couldn't figure out what to do with him, and this is what the experts told us to do. It turned out to be a terrible decision, really terrible. He learned how to abuse Benadryl there. A nurse taught him how to cheek Benadryl, and then they'd save it up and gamble for the pile of Benadryl, and then it's kind of a dissociative if you take a bunch of it at the same time. He almost died several times abusing cough medicine and alcohol. And the suicide attempt that started this whole thing was because of psychedelics, because he was using them by himself and he just wanted to stay on the other side. And so it's been a really rough journey. We are here with our smiley faces plastered on, like, oh, we're gonna be okay, right? We're gonna be okay. Whew, we didn't know for sure if we were gonna be okay, and it was really not okay there for quite a little while. Then a couple of years later, Joey had the idea to start a podcast. And I've been a musician my whole life. I don't know anything about podcasting, but I know how to edit video because of COVID. I had to learn how to edit things. And I am passionate about helping other families. We had kind of come out of the worst of it at this point. Joey was in recovery during this time, and he and I set up Safe Home Podcast. And that kind of started me on this journey of advocacy and speaking up and trying to help other adoptive parents. This was in, I believe, 2021, August of 2021. And Joey ended up recording 6 episodes with me and then returning to use of substances. And when he was kind of right on the way out the door, I was like, do you want me to keep this podcast going, or do you want me to hold it for you, or what do you want me to do? And he said, Mom, you keep going, Mom, and share our story and help other families. So I have done that. I'm extremely passionate about this work, and there's so much work to be done. It's a little overwhelming at times, but I just find if there's one person that is helped by me sharing our story, then that makes it, it sort of transforms our pain into something useful. So I'm really happy about that. He and I have become much closer through some work that I've been doing with Craft Method. It's here, I'll put it in the chat here. Craft Method. If you just Google Craft Method, it will pop up. It's a way to relate with people who are struggling with substances, and it's a way to be unconditionally positive with them with super strong boundaries. And it has enabled me to stay sane, and it's enabled him to be able to trust me that I will be the same whatever he's doing. So I approach him in the same way, whether he's using substances or not, whether he's going to school the right way or not, whether he's mentally unstable or not. I present to him exactly the same way, all of those different scenarios. So it's been super helpful to me. And I try to help other parents learn some of the same tools that I've learned. We ended up yeah. Oh, Mary, you know about craft. Craft is amazing. Another term for it is invitation to change. They're kind of in between names right now. And I'm going to also put in this book, Beyond Addiction is an amazing book that's helped me. So if any of you have anyone in your family struggling with addiction or kind of chaotic behavior of any sort, self-harm, I highly recommend that course of that method. It's really great. We ended up changing the name of the podcast to Unraveling Adoption, and I started focusing more on adoption instead of addiction and mental health and diversity. I tried to focus on adoption, but certainly within the adoption community, addiction is a huge problem, as well as suicidality. So it's kind of where I like to hang out. This was taken on Sunday. Now I will catch you up with what Joey's doing now, and he is totally fine with me sharing this. He is in rehab at the Betty Ford Clinic out in Rancho Mirage in the desert, about 2 hours from where we live. He is today celebrating his 30th day of sobriety. So he has the flu though, so he can't go get his chip, but he's very excited. This is the longest he's been sober since age 12. So we're very happy for him. And on Sunday, if all goes the way we think it will go, he's going to move into a sober living house in Palm Springs. And he's staying out there, which is excellent, even though I miss seeing him so often and it's a pain in the neck to drive out there. But I am so glad that he's staying out there and away from his dad and his friends and, you know, the people and the places and the things that are triggering for him with his substances. So super proud of him. He actually just recorded an episode with me that will come out on Monday. So if you want to hear from his own voice what his recovery has been like and challenges that he's been dealing with, you can tune in on Sunday to hear him do that. So, okay, that was my story. I'm going to keep going with the second part of my talk, which is I kind of got this download a couple of weeks ago. I knew I was going to be talking about motherhood, but I wasn't exactly sure. And I thought, I was reminded of the ACE scores. Can you, in the chat, can you just put a number 1 if you have heard of ACE, adverse childhood experiences? I just want to see how many people know about that. Okay, a lot of you. Good. Okay, a lot of you know about the ACEs. Okay, I'm just going to rip through them really quick. This was kind of developed a few years ago, and it is a way to kind of assess how traumatized a person might be and how many behaviors might come up because of the inevitable behaviors that will sprout from this kind of trauma. And also illnesses and mental health issues are correlated highly with these ACE scores. So you give yourself a point if you have any of these in your childhood. So I'm just kind of listing them here for those. Yeah, and they don't put adoption on there. I know. I guess you could, it would be extreme physical neglect. I guess it could be under 4. But yeah, they should put adoption on there. I agree. So I thought I could, oh, and here's a quote about ACEs. Adverse childhood experiences can have a tremendous impact on future violence victimization and perpetration and lifelong health and opportunity. So it really, really makes a huge difference. Those ACE scores or the trauma that you experienced, the trauma that you experienced as a child has a huge effect on you. I'm going to try one more of these Instagram things. I hope it works. Oh yeah, this is a good one. I'm going to say next week. And this is Could you see that? So yeah, we're all just struggling, you know, we all have probably, I would guess. Oh, I was just going to say, I was going to guess everybody has at least one, but Hannah says she would be zero. But if you had adoption on there, it would be one. So we all can understand the depth of somebody's pain. Not that it's trauma limbics. I want to stay away from comparing pain, but this kind of data has helped tremendously to help teachers and therapists and doctors understand, oh, okay, this person might really have some struggles. So let's give them extra resources and things like that. So my big aha was adverse motherhood experiences. So what I would like for you to do is, if you have a piece of paper nearby, it can just be a scratch paper, whatever, or if you're a computery type person, if you want to open up a blank spreadsheet or a list, I would like for you, I think you will get more out of this talk if you had a way to keep track of your adverse motherhood experiences. Now, if you yourself were not a mother, you still, you still might have, if you're a person that could be a mother, but were never a mother, you could have an AME score. But if you're not a person that could ever be a mother, you could use your mother or a mother that you love or your birth mother, or you can keep track of whichever mothers you'd like. So you can make little, there are going to be 10 factors on the left side, so you can number it 1 through 10, and then you can make columns for however many mothers you'd like to keep track of. So, and I'm going to go into this with another trigger warning. Motherhood is really triggery, and just take good care of yourselves. And this is being recorded, so if you like have to step out, it's going to be recorded, and maybe you can skip over parts if it's really, really triggering for you. I definitely don't want to make anything worse, but I'm hoping that this will help people understand, maybe the depths of people's pain more. I'm going to run through them quickly, and then I'll go through each one separately. So the first adverse motherhood experience is infertility or failed pregnancy, unexpected pregnancy, pregnancy or birth trauma, postpartum depression or complications. So you can see this is kind of going chronologically in a mother's life. Loss of social support, loss of a child, attachment difficulties, a struggling child, abuse, and single parenting. So let's start with infertility and failed pregnancy. This is one I know very, very well. So there are several different ways that this can interact with you. So on your little chart, just give yourself or whoever mother a number one if any of these come through. So, oh, Mary, oh gosh. So if any of these are true for you for this infertility and failed pregnancy, then give it a 1 on your chart. Okay, so the most you can get on this page is 1. Okay, so if you're unable to get pregnant for any reason, if you have had experience doing the infertility treatment process, we talk about the adoption industry as being kind of a corrupt, evil empire. Well, the infertility industry is absolutely abhorrent. If you have had any interactions with that, it's a nightmare. So they want to keep you in that loop as long as humanly possible and keep collecting your money, and they could care less about how you're feeling about it, or offer you therapy or anything like that. They're like, no, just try again. Miscarriage happens to so many women, and it's not talked about very often, so it's handled alone a lot of times. Stillbirth is extremely tragic. Major congenital defect incompatible with life. I've had a friend that found out that her baby her fetus had trisomy 13, I think is what it's called. And she had to make a choice. Does she carry this baby to term and then it probably will live for an hour or two, or does she have an abortion? It's just a monumental, horrible decision anyone would have to make. And having an abortion or an attempted abortion, I know people that have tried to abort on their own and were not successful, and then living with that's kind of tragic. And abortion, I'm completely pro choice, and even if abortion is your best choice and you're choosing it and you feel totally great about it, I still believe that it creates an adverse motherhood experience. It is not something that anyone would do lightly or just like, oh, well. It is a deeply moving experience no matter how you come to it, right? Forced sterilization. This happens, it used to happen more often. I know of someone in our space that talks about her mother went in for some other surgery and came out. Her husband told the doctors to get rid of her uterus. So there's stuff like that that happens. That's absolutely horrible. I also know that in international adoption and in other countries, forced sterilization occurs much more often. At least I think I've heard. There are people that are child free by choice, and I'm putting this under adverse motherhood experiences even still, even if it was their choice, because they get all sorts of flack for it. This is a very pro-natal culture that we live in, very, very pro-family. When are you going to have your child? You know, everybody's supposed to have children. So people who are child free by choice are, yes, people who are child free by choice struggle in our culture, even if they're totally fine with their choice. So that's why it's listed here. And LGBTQ plus family planning, as far as I know, still so far, if you're a gay or lesbian couple, you can't create a baby just without something else helping you. So however that has to happen, you got to figure that out, and go through this rigmarole with infertility industry. There's a lot of predatory practices, surrogacy, all sorts of things like that. And then anyone who experiences parenthood through surrogacy, donor conception, fostering, or adoption are living this kind of unnatural, this is not the way it was supposed to be kind of family building. So all of those ways are ways to have an adverse motherhood experience in this very initial part where you can't get pregnant. So on your little chart, just give yourself or whoever a 1 if any of these things are true for you. And if you'd like, you can just put a 1 here. And I hope it wouldn't make anyone feel awkward, because it could be talking about someone else that you know. So this is not like saying that you for sure had this happen to you. If you feel comfortable to put a 1 in the chat if you got a point, or any of your people on your list got a point here. Yeah, this one is very painful from an adoptive parent point of view. I think that the infertility aspect is not talked about very much, so that you get a total of 1 on this page. So you can't have more than 1 for this whole infertility and failed pregnancy. Yeah, thank you. But I think the infertility, oh yeah. So there's 10 things. So this is just the first thing. So the most you can get from the whole exercise is 10. Okay. Otherwise people will have like 46, and that would be bad. So yeah. But I think the infertility piece, I would like to start talking more about that in public spaces. And I think it's a big piece in the adoption world that we don't talk about much. It is extremely painful to be infertile. I am finally starting to deal with it now, but it's a little too late because I should have dealt with it before I adopted. Yeah. So it's something I hope to continue to bring forward. Okay, number 2. So here's your chance to make a second number here. Yes, child is not by choice, just from infertility or inavailability of a partner. Yes, thank you, Sarah. And I'm going to read all of your comments later. I hope that AKA will save the comments. So if there's something that I've missed, I just invented this thing. So if there's something I missed, please let me know and I'll add more to it. So the second way you can have an adverse motherhood experience is an unexpected pregnancy. So people get pregnant all the time where it's unwanted or unplanned. There's the oops babies. My wife is an oops baby. Her closest sibling is 7 years older, and they thought they were done. The oldest of her group is 18 years older than her. So it was a huge spread of children's ages. And we all probably know people that have one of those oops babies that they weren't expecting. There's the failed birth control, 99% time it works, right? Of course, people get pregnant through rape and incest. They get pregnant through an affair. And then I believe that it's a very difficult thing, whether I'm not judging whether this is right or not, but to hide your pregnancy or hide the birth father's identity from whoever, the family, the neighbors, whoever you have to hide it from. My own mother, who gave me permission to share parts of her story. Got pregnant when she was 16 and my dad was 17 in 1965. And she definitely could have been a birth mother, except the fact that my dad stuck with her and they decided to parent. But she could have been in this community pretty easily. But she was forced to quit school because God forbid anyone pregnant would be seen at school. And so she had to hide and get a GED. And, that was the end of her school career when she was 16. So that is very, very difficult. And we also probably know people that hid their entire pregnancy. Someone I know hid their pregnancy until they were in the ambulance in labor. And you just imagine how many stress hormones are pouring through that child and that mother, which is one unit, by the way, at that point in time for sure, and for months afterwards, how much stress is involved with trying to hide. Or there's people in the NPE or not parent expected community that the mother has hidden the birth father's identity for decades until DNA came along, and then no more secrets anymore, people. So that's very stressful on everyone. So give yourself or the mothers you're keeping track of a point if any of these things in number 2, unexpected pregnancy, relate to them. All right, the third way you can have an adverse motherhood experience is through pregnancy or birth trauma. There's so many ways things can go sideways when you're pregnant. Lack of prenatal care is one. Complicated pregnancy, gestational diabetes, all sorts of horrible things happen to people when they're pregnant, and then people tell them horror stories more, right? Really, really tricky. Difficult childbirth. I'm not really sad that I missed out on that whole thing. That sounds terrifying to me. And so I think that birth, I suppose maybe birth can be non-traumatic, but it seems kind of traumatic just in general. And there are some births that are extremely traumatic. My mother, when I was in high school, was a nurse in the labor and delivery and in the NICU. She would tell us horror stories of these doctors that refused to come in from their golf game and made these women wait, or had women laboring for 48 hours, and just horrible, horrible things. So I'm sure maybe some people here had one of those difficult births, and gosh. And I don't know that there's a lot of therapy or people on board to help people that have been through a traumatic birth. There's also people that gave birth alone or in less than an ideal situation. My mother in 1965, as a 16-year-old, gave birth completely by herself, completely anesthetized, and no one was there for her. It breaks my heart, and that happened so often, and even still today, it can happen in all sorts of different situations. COVID made all sorts of weird things happening with births too. Or there's always the taxi cab birth too, things like that. Having a C-section, I think, would be extremely traumatic. And then dealing with a VBAC, which is vaginal birth after C-section, I'm sure would be extremely stressful, wishing it was a certain way. People nowadays are creating birth plans and wanting to have water births or natural births or all sorts of things. And then things start happening that they didn't plan, and then having to go do a hospital birth or having to get a C-section. That would be extremely difficult, I would imagine. And hunger or economic insecurity while pregnant is another really difficult experience. And then the worst part, it would be the death of the mother during childbirth. So maybe somebody that in your family or in your lineage might have had that happen. It happened way more frequently before, but the US is really terrible with the statistics of maternal morbidity. And as I understand it, Black mothers are twice as likely to die in childbirth in the US. It's really terrible, terrible, terrible statistics. So that was not very fun. Are y'all doing okay? Deep breath. This is hard stuff. Hard stuff. Oh, I've got something kind of funny. Let's see. Oh, this is kind of touching and funny. This is sweet. So if anyone's super triggered by birth, baby kind of stuff, look away for about 30 seconds.
Hi, Mama. Mwah. Say, I'm sorry I was a stinker.
Hi, my baby.
She's looking at you.
She's really beautiful.
What I want you to see, and I'm sure you noticed it, was the baby calmed as soon as it saw its mother, and the mother also calmed, because they're one thing, they're one unit still, and for months later, and that bond is just so deep, and having trauma around that momentous occasion is just so hard. Yeah. Oops.
She's looking at you.
Let me get out of there. Okay. The next one is postpartum depression. So right after giving birth, these are some of the things that can happen. Did you also, the most anyone can have right now is 3, as we're going into our number 4. Okay. Oh, I should go back. Did you want to put a 1, drop a 1 in the comments if you had one from this other list? The pregnancy and birth trauma, loss of our mothers and babies. Yes, we're getting to that one, Erica. Yep. Anyone else have this pregnancy or birth trauma? Okay, or know somebody that did? Yeah.
She's looking at you.
Okay, going on. Okay, so postpartum. We've all heard of postpartum depression, which can be extremely dangerous, and I don't think that's talked about as often as it should be either in our culture. Physical complications in the first 6 weeks after giving birth. I can only imagine. Lack of postpartum medical care. And this one, giving birth triggered your own mother wound. I've heard from so many moms who are adoptees that were kind of in the fog until they gave birth. And then they're like, holy crap, holding this little infant. How could anyone give this away? And then everyone gets all triggered. And I also think that if you're a birth mom who did relinquish, whether it was coerced or whether it was by choice or however that happened, when you have another child and keep it, that must be very triggering as well. I mean, it's just triggering all over the place, right? So giving people that postpartum compassion for all of those feelings that come up, and the hormones are on fire, and just everything is very difficult right around that initial time. So does anyone have did that resonate for anyone? You could drop a 1 in the chat if that one was applied to any of you. All right. Then loss of social support while pregnant or while child is a minor. So this can happen many different ways. Divorce or separation from your partner. Your partner could just abandon you. That's happened to several people in my family line. I've had my great grandmother got pregnant with the rich boy in school and got completely ostracized by her family and abandoned by her boyfriend. And my grandmother ended up getting raised by her grandparents. So death of a partner or loss of employment, financial kind of stuff. Shunning by your family or friends, either for getting pregnant or for having a child. Even in the best of circumstances, a lot of times people lose their friends when they're the only ones that have children. Their friends are like, oh, don't know what to do with children, right? And dropping out of school, like my mother had to do. Yeah, and then you lose all of your friends. You lose the teachers that were supportive of you. You lose the school counselors. You just are isolated. So anyone have any... if you had any of these for yourself or any moms you're keeping track of, give yourself a point. All right. Oh, this is just a funny tattoo fail. My mom is my angel. I think it's supposed to be angel. Oh man, the tattoos and the permanency. Oh lordy. Okay. Okay, here we are. Loss of a child. This is where a lot of people in adoption are going to be nodding their heads, right? So relinquishment, whether it's chosen or coerced, is going to be difficult no matter what. A lot of times the birth mothers relinquish, thinking they're relinquishing into an open adoption, and it's okay, I'll still be in touch with my child, I'll be able to celebrate birthdays with them, or I'll be able to send them cards, or I'll be able to see them every month or whatever. And there's nothing that keeps that door open. There's no laws, there's no contracts, there's no nothing that makes sure that that's happened. So that's extremely traumatic, I would imagine. Removal of your child by protective services, whether it's warranted or not, would be extremely traumatic. Kidnapping, we've heard of lots of kidnapping. Some people think adoption itself is kidnapping, and then some people, Native American children, have been kidnapped by our government and our agencies to give to white families as literal assimilation. It's really, really horrible. Astrid Castro, I'm sure a lot of you know from Adoption Mosaic, was literally kidnapped and sold on the black market. This happens in our community a lot. Child trafficking. And of course, having a child die at any age is going to give you one gigantic point. I don't know any other way, but just to give this one point, but this one's a bad, heavy duty one. So, and of course, in this talk and in this adverse motherhood experience, we're thinking from the mother's point of view, but every single one of these affects the child. So if you're the adoptee, yeah, you're getting the results of this trauma, right? You have your own trauma over here, and this is, you're the results of all of this other trauma. All right, attachment and identity difficulties. This we talk about all the time in adoption circles, difficulty bonding with children. I don't know if any of you have heard of blocked care. That's when a lot of times foster parents, adoptive parents, cannot stand their children and are just completely blocked, like they feel no kindness toward their children, no empathy, and are just so frustrated with the whole thing. Luckily, there are wonderful people out there helping people with blocked care so they can do better as parents. But it's a real thing to have difficult bonding with your child. Lactation challenges for newborns. I know that's a real thing. My mother ended up being a lactation consultant, and it's really difficult if you have trouble breastfeeding. Relinquishment and adoption trauma for the child. So I'm putting this as a adverse motherhood experience, but any adoptive mother will know that watching your child struggle with adoption trauma is an adverse motherhood experience. Again, we're not comparing or keeping score here, but having a child with this trauma caused by the adoption that we did is really hard. It's really hard. Lack of biological mirroring with adopted and fostered children. I like this one because a lot of times we think from the adoptee's point of view, it's very difficult to bond with people that don't look like you. It's the same thing in reverse though. Adopted parents don't look like their kids. I would have had a little blonde child that sat still on my lap, right? My kid didn't turn out like that at all. And I love him dearly, of course, but that lack of biological mirroring goes both ways. And anytime there's a transracial, transcultural, intercountry identity issue between you and your child, that's going to be a tricky situation. And that can happen within adoption, fostering, or just through marriage or step parenting. There's all sorts of ways you could have those kind of differences in there. Lack of connection or difficulties with your child's biological family. If you're a foster or adoptive parent, that can be really stressful. Dealing with biological family, of course, I always advocate for dealing with biological family, but anytime you bring in more players to the family situation, it can be really tricky. And then it's so common to have estrangement from children. This is really common for adoptees, for sure, and even just regular young adults. It's becoming more and more common. I suppose our culture, everyone's more isolated and able to live without the family unit, but this estrangement is very painful. And then step parenting, you can ask my wife, that's sometimes not a super fun deal. Step parenting can be fraught with all sorts of difficulties. And then just feeling like not a worthy mother. It's so hard. Adoptive parenting is hard, birth parenting is hard. It's just parenting. Parenting is hard. I think any mother would probably feel like this, but when you add adoption into it, it adds extra layers of, God, I'm not a real mom. I'm not the real mom. Yeah, Mary. Anyone else have a 1 for this number 7? Just drop a 1 in there if you have a 1. Yeah, there's so many ways. And this kind of stuff goes lifelong, the attachment and identity difficulties. Everyone's kind of like trying to figure out where we fit in, where we belong. At this point, I'd like to play part of a song that was part of the musical that was presented 2 weeks ago at the Untangling Our Roots Summit. The song is called Real Mother, and it's from a musical called For the Records by Rich Erlob, who is an adoptee, a late discovery adoptee himself, and it's a somewhat autobiographical musical. I was privileged to be able to play the piano for the kind of the concert versions premiere a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and this is the chorus, so you can see the words, but I'll play it over here. I hope this will work. And just a little bit, and get out your hankies, and just trigger warning, if this is something that you can't handle today, just come back in about a minute, okay? It's a pretty intense song. Can you hear it okay?
My heart is racing, so happy, embracing my son, my little man.
So this is the adoptive mom, and then the birth
And
mom.
though we have just met, I'm so thrilled that I get to hold his little hand.
My heart is racing, someone is replacing the role that I should fulfill. I have no good choice now, I have no real voice now. I signed against my will. Am I a real mother? Because there's another who gives him what I could not. How will I explain this, that I will remain his true mother? I am and I'm not.
All right, you all doing okay? When I was playing that at the summit, I had to think about football the whole time, because I'm like, I have to be able to read these notes. This song is intense. I had to sing it once at my church too, and it's like, whoa, that was really tough. This song really does a beautiful job of expressing the pain of both mothers, right? And I think it's so great for adoptees to be able to hear that and to go, oh, well, they had pain too. It's a different pain. We're not comparing, but they had pain too. Both of your mothers had pain, I guarantee you. Okay. All right, these last ones are, I'm going to open it up to questions in just a few minutes. The last ones are not going to take as long. Struggling child. There's so many ways our kids struggle. They could have a disability they're born with, or that they obtain later. They could have mental health issues. My son struggled with suicidality for years. It is something that is front of mind at all times. People with neurodivergence or learning disabilities, I believe neurodivergence is wonderful, and it can be just everyone's blossoming perfectly the way they should be, but it's really difficult to be neurodivergent in our culture today. So fighting with schools and getting services are tricky. Hospitalizations or surgeries, even for premature babies, that are hospitalized right away after birth, necessarily, we're able to keep little 1-pounders alive now. But I think that is difficult for the baby and the mother to be separated, even when they're so little, or maybe especially because they're so little. Having an adopted or fostered child who's struggling, and having an addicted child. So lots of ways our kids are struggling, and just drop a 1 in the chat if you haven't already done so, if this number 8 resonated with you, or the moms that you're keeping track of. And next is abuse or violence. This is another really not fun one. People abusing their own children. So we think about the pain of knowing that you hurt your child. It must be just unbearable. Getting abused yourself by another adult in front of your child. Having your child be abused by another adult. Oops. Bullying or racism directed at your child at school or by family or friends. That happened to my son relentlessly because he was Asian in a white school. It's so difficult to have your child be bullied because I adopted him transracially and stuck him in a white school. I mean, that's a lot. And it's very painful if your child is abusive to you or to someone else, another kid or another adult. It's very, very painful to have that kind of thing happen. So I'm moving on because that one was really painful. You can drop a 1 in there if any of those resonated. And the last one is single parenting. Now, people choose to single parent by choice, or sometimes they end up being a single parent. So I think single parenting is really tricky. Sharing custody and fighting about custody is all consuming. It's very daunting. It's kind of like trying to navigate different co-parenting situations is really tricky. And economic difficulties of single parenting, childcare difficulties. You know, do I stay home sick because I'm sick, or do I go because I need the money? And who's going to take care of my kid? Those kinds of things are super tough. Okay, all right. So that is our 10th one. Now, if you've been keeping track, if anyone is interested, if you're willing to write down the number, now this could be for yourself or for any of the moms. So if you're interested in sharing the total number between 0 and 10 of your chart here. Maybe people don't want to share. 3. I did this exercise for me and then 4 generations up for me, and it was very revealing. Oh, Mary's 10. Ooh. Just sending compassion to all of you with any numbers. Yeah. Yes. Okay. I've got a funny to help us. Oh, a 9, Wendy. Oh, I'm so sorry. Misha, 7. Yes. So much. So we're holding all this pain, and we're just, you know, we walk around moms, and these moms that we're talking about, whoever is a mom here or whichever mom you're talking about, we just keep going, right? We have no choice. We keep going. We just put a smile on our face. And so I have this video of this little girl that's like, it's fine. We're fine.
How is it?
Good.
It looks like you're enjoying yourself. Oh, yeah, that looks like you're enjoying. Oh, hey, you okay? You
I'm okay.
okay?
That one tickles me so much. I think she's so
How is it?
so cute, and just it's a good metaphor for how we all are just like pretending that this is okay and we're not just about to die right now. So that's pretty funny. And I'll share the slideshow with everyone after I'm done talking. And yeah. Okay, I want to run through here real quick benevolent childhood experiences, because this is the flip side. We're back to the ACE scores for children's experiences, but there's other ways to mitigate factors for childhood, for the adverse childhood experiences. These are the ways to counteract childhood experiences. So you're not just screwed if you get a 10 on your ACE score, but you will need these types of things, at least one caregiver with whom you feel safe, good neighbors, an adult who could provide you with support and advice. Yay, BCEs. Yes, we love these because it can get really depressing just thinking about the ACEs. So the BCEs, benevolent childhood experiences, give us hope that even for grown-ups that are still dealing with our own ACEs, we can get help, and this helps us know how to help children who might have trauma. Now, I made my own ways to support mothers. Welcoming mothers' voices in combined open adoption spaces, like AKA does so beautifully. AKA is one of the greatest organizations that is so inclusive of everyone in the adoption constellation and beyond. So that's excellent. More of that, please. And providing supportive spaces specifically for birth mothers and adoptive mothers, which AKA also does. So you do things like this, which is open to everyone. And then you also have your little silos. I think those both is extremely important. Offer adoption-attuned resources to new or struggling mothers of all kinds. Allow room for all kinds of mother stories, and don't put mothers in a box. Aw, Hannah. So a lot of people out in the wild west of the internet come at me because I'm an adoptive mom before they even talk to me or know me at all before I open my mouth, and to let you know that I'm on adoptees' side. I'm really trying to help adoptees as much as possible, but a lot of people just see me as an adoptive mom. So if that's you, or if that's if you're working on that, I urge you to just be more curious. Yeah, there's a lot of adoptive moms that are not doing things right, and I don't do everything right for sure, but no one does everything right. And just to open up and allow mothers to be all of who they are, humanizing every mother's experience, including our own and those who might have hurt you in the process. I hope that exercise might have done that, of humanizing, bringing tough motherhood issues into the light, and seeking solace in Mother Nature, who is our greatest mother and who doesn't F everything up. Mother Nature does it well. This is one of my favorite quotes from Khalil Gibran's your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. This is a beautiful thing for adoptive mothers to remember, every mother to remember, that our children, they're on their own path and we're on our own path. So, and this is my last little thing, since I called it Happy Effing Mother's Day. Effing hard and effing beautiful, and life is somewhere in the middle there. It is a really hard life, and it is very beautiful. So I hope that that sums it up for you. All right, that is all I have for you. Please get in touch with me or Joey through our website, Unraveling Adoption. I hope that you listen to our podcast, if any of them interest you, and you can get on our mailing list at our website and just reach out to me anytime. I'd be very happy to talk to you after this anytime. And I think we're going to open it up to questions now, or discussion, whatever you guys want.
Yes.